virus, for example, you can't cheat it, but we can do our best to help control it. And one of the things we could do, as simple as it is washing hands, teaching our kids how to wash hands, and being really, really disciplined about that too as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering, we've got Easter coming up, and this is a time that's all about family. And I know people have a temptation as the weather starts to get better, a little cabin fever, right? Because then people all across the country, around the world, have been practicing social distancing, physical distancing, and now the sun's out. It's Easter weekend. Kids are there, and what do you recommend we tell our kids, and what do we recommend to others they tell their families in terms of this weekend in particular, and making sure we continue to be safe and be smart?
You know what? This has been a tough month and a half, 2 months for us. It's been a tough 2020. Kind of all around. And, the sun's coming out, and that was the thing too earlier on. It's like, okay, when the sun comes out, it's going to start to flatten the curve of this, because the virus doesn't like sunshine. The summer's coming, the springtime is coming. So it's extremely tempting for us as a family. I mean, we want to get out. The weather's beautiful. Yeah. So I would tell fellow Californians, as well as I would tell our fellow Americans, that I would tell them exactly what I tell myself, and exactly what our family is saying to each other, which is, are we doing everything we possibly can do to be the cure and not the reason why the curve doesn't flatten? And again, it's tempting to get out there. It's Easter weekend. We got a lot to celebrate and a lot to be grateful for. But one of the things that I go back to when it comes to just mental wellness, not only for myself, men, my wife, us, family, we're having the calls, we're having the video calls, is this idea of silver lining. Yeah. And this idea of trying to find a silver lining in a lot of the things that we have going on. And, if you really stop and pause just for a second, you can find a lot of silver lining. And in that silver lining is, it's a beautiful weekend. It's Easter. We have a lot to be grateful for. We're going to have our Easter egg hunt as we normally do. It's going to be inside the house. It's going to be in the front yard a little bit. It might be in the backyard, but other than that, that's it. Because when you think about it, I'd like to think that when we look back on this, yes, it's unprecedented. Yes, we've never gone through this. And yes, our lives have changed just like that. And there is a time when this was before this crisis, and then life after this crisis. But when we look back at it, these are the moments where, as hard as it is, as difficult as it is, I mean, you mentioned cabin fever. I mean, brother, my wife and I at midnight every night after the kids are asleep, we are just sitting sitting in the kitchen going, wow, all right, let's just breathe. We got this. We're all in this. We're all experiencing this together, and it's not easy. But again, I would recommend to our fellow Californians and our Americans what I've been telling myself and our family, which is just do everything we can to be part of the cure. Because because if we're disciplined, especially if we're disciplined, if we're exercising discipline now, then we're going to be able to enjoy things much quicker down the line. And that's what I want. I want that for us. I want that for our Americans. I know you do too. I want our kids to get back to school. I want every American to get back to work. I want us to earn that hard-earned dollar that everybody enjoys doing and getting back to work. So we're almost there, but we got to be disciplined, especially now, because this is that time, as you know, and you're feeling it, in California, where it's that you start to see a little bit of the encouraging news. The curve's starting to flatten, especially in New York, where things were tough and still are tough. California, all throughout the country. And then, you almost don't want to let up a little bit. Now's the time where you really got to stay in that disciplined lane.
Yeah, no, but you're an athlete, man. We don't run the 90-yard dash, right? I mean, that's the worst decision in the world. So, you talked, and I know our time's limited, but you talked about silver linings, and I think one of the silver linings in your life is still having your mom. And I know it's been a tough year for you with your dad, and I imagine others watching that have lost loved ones. But that precious time with your mother, and the reason I bring it up is to make this point that we're all, Dr. King said, we're all bound together by a web of mutuality. And your mom is because you are in that interdependence. And what I mean by that is the impact all of our individual decisions have now on the lives of others. And so we talk about young, healthy people saying, hey, I got this. but young, healthy people have parents as well, and they don't want to have this virus, and we don't want to put their lives at risk. And I'm just curious what your interaction is with your mom, and how you're talking to her, and how you're talking to the rest of the family about how we take care of mom.
Sure. Well, thank you for bringing that up and about my mom. She's going to be thrilled, by the way, that the governor is talking about her. And thank you for bringing that up about my dad. I did. My dad decided to check out, and he walked with the angels just like that back in January. And also what's interesting, before I get to my mom, because I know a lot of people are going through this, is there was a time when this happened, when we started our social distancing and isolation, and everything got very real and very scary the first couple of weeks. And I started to think to myself, I was talking to my therapist, who I keep very busy, by the way. I said, you know, it feels like, did I not grieve enough for my dad? Like, because I feel, and in our conversations, it was really beautifully articulated. Well, we have a global grief going on. And when there's a global grief like this, everybody's feeling this grief. You're feeling it's kind of heavy. So I bring that up to say, while I don't have my dad anymore, certainly miss him, but I do have my mom. And we all have our loved ones in our life, whether it's our mom, dad, hopefully both, grandparents, aunts, uncles. And, you know, we made a point very early. I said, Mom, she was in Florida. I said, I'm taking you out of Florida, and I'm going to bring you to us. And now you're locked down with us. And so she's high risk, Governor. She was diagnosed with stage 3B lung cancer. She has existing issues. And, you know, this virus has one pathology from its inception to the lungs of human beings. And we all know, you know, hopefully, you know, we all know the outcomes that could happen out of that. So she was very high risk. We've locked her down. I think she's very happy to be here with the babies too as well. But you know, what's interesting is I've had to, and I'm sure it's been like this for you. I know it's been like this for a lot of my friends, is this interesting thing happens with our parents and with our elderly in our family. They almost think this thing like they're immune to this. Yeah. And it's like, no, I'm going to go out. And so about 2 weeks ago, she was heading out, and I saw her get in the car, and I ran out there, and I said, I'm sorry, where do you think you're going, Mom? She goes, I'm going to run up to Publix real quick just to grab a few things. I said, no. You're not going to go to Publix. So she's well aware now of the seriousness of this. But, yeah, like a lot of Americans out there, we got to take care of our loved ones. And that's another thing, too, that you really smartly brought up is, I think to myself, you know, thank God, I'm a lucky SOB. I'm in some pretty good shape. I'd like to keep active, but I mean, I always think, well, what happens if I were to get sick or get somebody sick? If for whatever reason I'm asymptomatic and all of a sudden I bring something home, or I'm not being disciplined in my own social distancing, and I say, you know what, it's okay, I'm just going to go out this one time. Take a picture with somebody, shake somebody's hands, or just in an airborne way, it just hits me, and then all of a sudden I get her sick. That would be a tough one. So again, we got to not only be disciplined with us, but certainly our loved ones too, our elderly.
No, amen. And, you know, today, just interestingly, Dwayne, we had a big press conference. We've got this USNS Mercy, that remarkable Navy medical ship, this floating hospital in Los Angeles port. And we had a big spike in the number of our seniors in our skilled nursing facilities, our nursing homes, that have been tested positive. And big deal today, the Navy is now allowing us to move our seniors now on board that Navy hospital ship to protect them. And it reinforces the point you're making. Our seniors are the most vulnerable at this moment. And so your example about getting your mom and saying, what the heck are you thinking of taking the keys, Mom? You remember she used to do that to you a lot when you were younger. Now it's time to do it to our parents. Take those keys away. I love that example, man. That's good. Hey, just in our brief moment, you know, because you know, just I love you saying you got a therapist, and love you just being so honest and open. What more do you want to communicate to folks that, you know, frankly say, well, that's good for him, but I've got this. I'm still tough. You know, I may be drinking a little bit more. I may not be sleeping as much. I may be eating a little bit more, you know, ice cream, and, you know, I may not be taking care of myself, but I got this. What do you want to communicate to those folks in terms of what they really should be doing?
Well, you know what, I think, you know, I try not to be as judgy as I used to be, you know, and I try to underreact to a lot of things. But, you know, when I see a lot of people, but I, you know, I got to say, I feel like my senses and my gut, my instinct, and trying to have a finger on the pulse of what's going on in America with our Americans, feels like the majority of people they get it. They're doing everything they need to be doing. They're disciplined. Now, there's going to be a few out there who says, I'm okay, I'm tough, I'm this, I'm that, and not getting enough sleep, I'm cool, I beat depression once, I'm going to beat it again. And that may be true, and you may beat this one too. However, I do believe in always practicing, you know, discipline, and especially when it comes to something like this, because you know, the more, again, the more disciplined we can be now, then the earlier we can get back to enjoying a life that we once did. Now, it will be different, I believe. There's going to be a new normal that we're going to understand, embrace, and achieve. But that's okay. And that's going to be a good thing, because out of this, again, there's going to be some silver linings. And again, I want everybody to get back to work. I want the kids to get back to school. I also believe in, you know, and I know you believe this too as well, that not only are we resilient as Californians and as Americans, we're incredibly resilient. I also want, out of this, I think there's some silver lining in that we're going to have an emotional confidence coming back out of this thing. And it's going to be a different kind of confidence. And I think the kind of confidence we're going to have is one that's more respectful to a virus and to a pandemic like this. Hopefully, God willing, if it does come back, it won't be as strong. We'll be smarter, more informed, but also I think that confidence is going to allow us to be more empathetic. And I think we're more empathetic, then we just become better. So I do believe our bounce back, not only economy, getting back to jobs, the employment, but also I believe we're going to be better for it. And I also believe it's going to be with that kind of, our bounce back is going to have that kind of force and drive, that of a freight train. Now, it might not happen overnight, but it's going to be one of those slow builds. You know, we talked about not running that sprint, but it's going to be a marathon. But I do firmly believe that, you know, and I also believe this, Governor, and I know you feel the same way, is one day we will rise again.
No, I love that, man. I love the whole notion of empathy, seeing the world from a different set of eyes,
Yeah,
just softening our edges, our tone, our tenor, the way we talked about others and people
that's
we
right.
didn't know, strangers, the way we react to each other on social media, and just, you know, taking a pause back and really starting to talk about this fundamental universal notion that there's no leak on your side of our boat, that we rise and fall
Love that.
together. So I appreciate that, Dwayne. And I appreciate you, everything you're doing, your courage, your conviction. And man, I appreciate the frame around discipline as well, and hard work, grit, and resiliency. And so I think so many people are meeting this moment, and I'm really grateful you and I had this moment together as well.
Well, I appreciate you, Governor, and I know I speak for fellow Californians and, you know, America too as well, in that I appreciate your leadership. It takes a special, as you know, and as a lot of leaders out there know, and a lot of people out there know, that it's in time of trial like this and challenge that not the real leaders step up, I think, but the quality leaders step up. And you do it with a little bit of elegance, you do it with a little bit of grace, you also do it with some really great accountability on both coasts. I thought both coasts stood up really strongly in the face of this, from California to New York. And I appreciate that. I appreciate your leadership. I have one question for you that I know the world's going to want to know. I love my cheat meals on the weekends. I got a big one coming up. Talk to me about your cheat meals. What kind of cheat meals are you rocking? What's your favorite?
Brother, I can't. Sushi is not a cheat meal, so I'm over you. All right, that'd be like the healthiest thing I would do for my body, is eat that. But you know what? I'm gonna admit this is it's not now even a cheat meal, because all the drive-throughs started getting closed down, and I still needed my coffee in the morning. I found myself, forgive me, but I'm in the majority here, I think, with those egg McMuffins at McDonald's. And so that's been my cheat meal recently. I'm not sure I could sustain me, but it's been my cheat meal.
Hey, that's all right, brother. That's all right. You go egg McMuffins, I go tequila, and I'll go pancakes and French toast. I'll do the whole thing.
I like it.
I like it too.
I like the tequila.
We will keep in touch. And again, thank you for your leadership and your time. I appreciate it, Governor.
Appreciate you. Thanks so much, Wayne. Take care of yourself, buddy.
All right, brother. You too. Talk soon.
Bye.